Let's talk about black holes, capitalism, YouTube, and maybe tariffs. Welcome to The Big Puzzle. In this podcast, we explore the subtle connections between science, religion, politics, economics, and history. One piece at a time, we unveil the big picture of this shared experience that we call life. So it's been a while since I posted a video. It's not like I don't have anything to say, but I wanted to take some time off trying to move to the new platform and see how it goes there. And the topics I'm going to be talking about today are related to that somehow. So as you know, in the big puzzle, we try to connect different things, and the most common connectors are underlying principles, underlying processes. So today we're going to be talking about some of them. We already mentioned a few of them in the past, so but they will become relevant again. So I mentioned black holes, and why do I want to talk about black holes? Because there's a process in nature that is very prevalent, and that's the process of concentration or aggregation, right? And it has some consequences. So how do we get black holes in the universe? Well, it starts with an atom, right? If you have an atom flying in space, at one point it will come close to another atom, right? And they will come together. Now you have two atoms. So obviously at that level, at the atomic level, gravity is completely insignificant. But let's assume that that's the process that is producing those aggregations of atoms, right? So now from those two original atoms, kind of a apple pen process, you get a new particle that has two atoms. So now you have this situation. So let's say that now you have these two atoms together, and then you have another atom by itself, and then another atom comes through. So the gravitational force of the two atoms is bigger than the gravitational force of the single atom. So that third atom will go and join the two instead of joining the one. And then, you have another one. And so all of them will prefer to go towards, the particle that has more atoms. So with that aggregation over and over, you have some processes that start happening, some density, and so on. And eventually you end up having a star. Right, and the star has producing fusion, and that transforms the elements, and several things could happen to that star in the long term. One possibility is that just consumes all its fuel and just kind of turns off, and it's just kind of a big blob of matter, a huge planet. Just floating around. But in some cases, depending on several factors, they could collapse, they could explode, what we call as supernovas, right? So all that matter suddenly gets expelled and the star self-destroys. But there's another case in which the star becomes denser and denser and denser and has more and more mass until the gravitational force is so strong that nothing can escape, right? Not even light. And that's what we call a black hole, right? A black hole is just a bunch of matter that is so gravitationally intense that attracts absolutely everything. And black holes are all over the place in the universe. Very interesting stuff. There's one at the center of our galaxy that is kind of a small, and well, not small, but it's not very active. And we can talk, and we will talk about why and black hole could be not active. So black holes by nature, they're always growing, right? They can shrink, but they can grow at different speeds depending on how much matter they're attracting. And if I recall correctly, our galaxy central black hole consumes about an Earth a day worth of matter. So it's growing, but very slowly compared to other things. The Earth is not that big in universal sizes or measures. So why is this important? Because the underlying principle behind this is this principle of aggregation, and how the one who gets more initially ends up getting all at the end, right? So that single atom that was competing first with 2 atoms, then with 3, 4, 5, it has no chance, right? Obviously, probabilistically, it could become a star on its own or could be absorbed by the other one, but you get the idea, right? This competition becomes very unstable very fast. So now let's try to apply this to economic systems. And this is the main problem of capitalism. So you usually hear me talking about capitalism as the best economic system that we have, because it is. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect. And there's something that I don't think has been solved. It has to do with the same process. Because the reason why capitalism works is because of free markets. And free markets require competition. So you have competitors. You're competing, and that makes you optimize, and that makes you lower your prices, and that makes you, the whole system becomes better because of competition. The problem is that you need competition without a winner. And that is the challenging part. How do you create a competition without a winner? And think about the championship, right, of whatever sport you like. So you have many teams that are playing each other. Some of them are better, some of them are worse. They move to the next level by winning games, and eventually one of them or 2 of them get to the final, and one of them ends up being the champion. And that kind of destroys the whole championship. You don't have anything else to watch, right? Yeah, you can celebrate whatever, but then you need to start another championship. Put everybody, at the same level again. What will happen if you only have one chance to become a champion? And once you become a champion, well, you just don't play with anybody else, right? Because you are the champion. You're the only one who matters. And that is a problem with capitalism. The champions in capitalism are monopolies. So a monopoly is an enterprise, let's say, a business, a company that did beat, I don't know what the past of beat is. Bet? No. Did beat all its competitors, so becomes the only one. And that destroys capitalism, right? There's another form that is similar, that it's oligopoly, so where you have very few competitors, and they all kind of their own monopoly, but they can just talk to each other and plan what is better for them and not for the system. How do we deal with capitalism? Well, first of all, some people say, well, that shows that capitalism doesn't work, so we need socialism. Definitely not. Socialism is jumping to the end, right? And putting a monopoly that it didn't got there because it was more efficient, it was better, it's just the worst kind of monopoly, right? When the government becomes the owner of the means of production and makes the decisions, and so it's kind of, I don't know, say, oh, I burnt my hand, so let's pour some acid on it, right, to heal. yeah, socialism is not the solution. It's making things absolutely worse. And every time that happened, that was tried, that's what happened, right? It ruined everything really fast. But the other way, as a mostly libertarian, I don't like it. That is that you have to impose laws and regulations to not let monopolies form. So it's kind of creating a championship and then start handicapping the teams or the players that are better. Yeah, it could work, but again, who's going to be implementing that is the government. You don't want the government to have that much power because they will misuse it, almost certainly. So regulations and laws to prevent monopolies is the best thing that we found, but there should be a better way. And I wish I could say, well, in this video I'm going to tell you how to do it. I don't know. But if we understand the principle behind this principle of, having competitors, but that creates, an inequilibrium, like we were talking. So this has two atoms and this one has one atom. So the one that ends up becoming the black hole is the monopoly. And once you have the black hole, there's no way to split a black hole, right? Into two or more parts. So as I said, the reason I don't like it again is because these regulations put inefficiencies, right? Inefficiencies in the system, make the system less efficient. Again, you can say, well, but the alternative is even worse, and that is also true. So, I hope sometime we can think together and try to figure out how to solve that ultimate problem of capitalism destroying itself by letting somebody win in the competition. But when I think, as an engineer, when I think about inefficiencies, one word that comes to mind is friction. And in the engineering world, we have the same problem. We have some things that we need to control, and we don't like friction because friction just turns energy into heat, and in a way that is mostly not reversible. So you're just increasing the entropy. Give you an example. You have a car that is running, right, and you want to stop it. Well, the way you usually stop a car is by adding friction, to the wheels, and that friction, that heat, dissipates the energy of the car, the kinetic energy of the car, and it slows it down. But that energy is lost. Well, electric vehicles, they could regenerate and do other stuff. But let's keep it, simple. You say, well, that's inefficient, but what's the alternative? The car crashing into a wall, right? So yeah, it's not the best, but it's what we have. And friction could be useful, but again, we need to acknowledge that it's an inefficiency. Like I was saying, in electric cars, well, they could turn that into regeneration of energy, just turning the wheels into generators, right? And that slows the wheel down and takes the electric energy back to the batteries, right? So that's a clever way to deal with that, and shows that you not only need friction, but at some point you still need to apply friction, right? Because these generators won't stop the car completely. So at some point you need to take the last part of energy. So this idea of having a system where everybody is in equal grounds, but some people start standing out and then they got more attention, that is also something that we see in many places, right? And one example that I mentioned in the introduction was YouTube. Not only YouTube, but many systems that rely on rewarding the winners, the initial winners, right? I think in a previous video, I can't remember which one, I think when we're talking about the crowds or self-organization, we mentioned how the leaders in a flock, the ones that the rest of the animals follow, are not distinguishable from the rest. It's not like they have some specific attribute that makes them better to lead, that the leading abilities. It's just by random chance they're in a place at a time where they develop that leadership. Everybody starts following them, and it's an interesting concept. It's related to this, right? It's just that single atom that just because being close to that second atom becomes the what we will call the nucleator, right? Where we start growing. Side note, okay, this channel will do a lot of side notes and digressions, but talking about nucleation, I always remember how the most of the snowflakes and also the rain droplets, they have a bacterium at the center. And we can talk about this. It's really interesting, and but yeah, every time that you have a snow falling and you open your mouth and you try to capture to eat the snow, you shouldn't. There's in each snowflake at the center as a nucleator, there's very likely a bacteria. So keep that in mind. But again, this idea of just being picked by chance and then reinforced, that is because it's part of this feedback loop that we were talking about, the aggregator, the concentrator. Now, we see the same thing happening in the internet. And I use the example of YouTube. YouTube, when it started, and most of social media when it started, and I was there, I was an early adopter, it really leveled the ground. For me, it was kind of incredible that I was having conversations and debating topics and sharing interests with people, in the United Kingdom, and people in Singapore, and people in, well, not China, but many different places that before that I had zero access to. That was really good, and you could find groups, you could find new communities with shared interests, and it was very leveled ground. But then things started changing towards the you being the center of something. So you were, I can't remember now the names, but usually you would have in a forum, everybody kind of had the same level. Yeah, usually you had a moderator, but it was just for you to behave pretty much properly. But eventually the whole paradigm changed to you are the center. So you have a blog, right? And then you have readers or you have followers. That idea of having followers, that was kind of a new thing. And again, and the more evolved they became, the more centralized. So you felt like you were at the center of something, and that was not very healthy. It is not healthy now, right? Even YouTube, you have some followers in YouTube, and I don't know, YouTube, I had 100 followers. I don't know who they are. It's not very symmetric. It's not very a good place to debate or to learn. It's very one directional. But to make things worse, this aggregation process started working with the algorithm. So these algorithms started to prioritize the let's talk about YouTube now, like the channels that got more engagement, and having more engagement is not necessarily a good thing, right? So they optimize for that, and then it's very, very difficult if you don't get rewarded very early on by the algorithm. It's very difficult for you to get recommended at all. So that's why you have people like, I would say, Mr. Beast. I probably watch half of one of his videos. I really don't like it at all. I don't find him funny, smart, entertaining, insightful. I don't learn anything at all. But he has millions and millions of followers, and completely, recommended to everybody all the time. And then you have some other people who I started following with very little followers, and then stopped seeing them for good. They gave up, and they were doing very, very good job. But even this analogy of black holes and supernovas, I think it applies. If I go to YouTube and I look at my subscriptions to different channels, 90% of the channels are completely inactive, and they were good. They were really good, and at some point they had a lot of followers, but most of them ended up being burnt out because the requirements of the algorithm to keep promoting them basically had them have to make a decision. Do I just do what I enjoy doing and that other people like watching, or do I just go after engagement at whatever cost, right? And I had to abandon what I like doing, what I'm good at, just to please this algorithm. And those become supernovas. They get burned out. They can't follow through with what they're doing, and they end up dying as channels, right? But then you end up having people like, again, Mr. Beast, I put it as an example. He's a black hole, right? He's not giving anything. He's just taking. And you say, oh, yeah, he went to Africa, whatever. I don't care. I mean, there's tons of people who go to Africa and help without getting millions for themselves. But again, it's about the quality. And if you're watching this video, it's very likely that you know me personally. Last videos I published in YouTube got 0 recommendations, so 0 impressions. YouTube, I don't know why, decided not to share my content anymore. Though the click-through rate was the same than before, but yeah, I published one that was showed to 8 people. So, and again, I'm not saying that this is quality material, but I do believe that if you listen to what I'm saying and you think about it, I'm trying to give some ideas for you to start thinking, to understand life, to understand what's going on with you, with your city, with your family, with the universe. So I think there's value in what I'm saying. If not, I wouldn't be saying it, right? But this is kind of the problem with these algorithms. And the other thing is that, well, you always had famous people, but the process to become famous was more organic. So, for instance, you could be the best garage band in your neighborhood. And that would allow you to go, to some parties and play, and people get to know you. And then, somebody say, well, we have this event at the city. So you had that process through which not all the garage bands got to that level, but you have kind of a competition. And eventually some people, some bands become the Beatles. And even though I was a huge fan of the Beatles, I don't think that they were particularly as good as they are considered, musically, and they were just there at the right time in the right place, and yeah, they were very, very successful. But in the meanwhile, there were hundreds of others that didn't get there. But still, it felt more fair. You had your place. You kind of had a pyramid. Not everybody got to the top, but you could get to a certain level. You would guarantee to get certain levels. For instance, if you're the best bakery in your city, well, you will have people coming from all over the place to buy from you. But that doesn't prevent places to be the best bakery of their neighborhood, and they still could work. Now things are very binary in the sense that you are either a winner or you don't exist. And the reason why is not only this aggregation that we're talking about, because that's underlying all these processes, even the pyramid one, but the issue is that I think is the speed at which these changes happen. Like I say, in an organic growth, you kind of have to go through steps, and you could make it or not, but you remain at a certain level. But here it's very, very fast. Other people like what you're doing, or you're completely ignored. And it's not like what you're doing. It's the algorithm sending it to people, to like what you're doing. And now if we bring back this idea of friction, we could think that that's what we're losing, right? We're losing that time to think, time to consider things, time to opportunities, or things moving slower gives you more opportunities, to change things, to adapt if you want to. But when things are instant, well, you don't have that, and I think that is the problem. Earlier, I was, writing a comment in LinkedIn where I said that what we've learned from the pandemic and all the DEI movement and AI now is that we are entering the Homo overreactus era, right? So we are overreacting, and in systems, you want changes so abrupt changes have a lot of consequences. It creates instabilities all over the place, and some of them will propagate and affect a lot. So that's why you have to you need dampers, so things that slow down those big changes. And we're losing all those. Things are happening very, very fast. You cannot adapt. This AI bubble will be bad. It's already bad. It's hurting a lot of people that cannot get a good job based on a false promise of false expectations, fueled by people that are becoming very, very rich in the process. Abusing again of capitalism because there's no competition in the AI world, and they are forcing narratives that are false, and that will be very, very bad. Sorry to be a doomsayer, but that's how I see it. And then soon I'm planning to talk a little more about that in particular about what are the two big problems of AI. But again, this is just hopefully food for thought. How can we fight against this immediacy issue, this speed of change accelerated by algorithms, but not being able to grow organically. I published a couple of books fairly recently, and it's so difficult. So the people who read them and who don't have any incentive to lie to me, they said they were really, really good. Some people even said that it changed the way they saw some things, and they made changes in their lives based on some of the things that I'm saying in those books. But I have no way to promote them. I have no way to distinguish them for all the AI crap that is being published. If people are just writing crappy books using AI and publishing 10,000 books a day, how can you make your own one stance unless you're already part of the elite that was chosen in the past? And again, unfortunately, some of that is just by random chance. People in power are not necessarily nor the smartest, nor the best people, nor the most honest, but yeah, they were rewarded by the system. So again, food for thought. Thank you if you reached this point of the video. We will try it in Rumble, see how it works, see if it's I can get a little more exposition to the things. And well, that will be it for this one. Thanks for joining, and see you in the next one. Bye.